What's up, people? Today we are going to be talking about Fear the Walking Dead. I'm going to be delivering on what I promised you guys. We are going to be specifically talking about the problem with Fear the Walking Dead Season 1. Now, we will go over Season 2 and Season 3, but for the sake of this, I just want to go over Season 1 because it's going to be a pretty decently long video. But let's jump right into it. So the initial, first off, for anyone who says, "Oh, there's not a problem," go look at the ratings and how far they've dropped. Go look at recounts of Sunday Survival because I was there, and I didn't mention this in the actual video on Survival Sunday, but I will here because it has more to do with this. Once The Walking Dead Season 8, Episode 16, Wrath, the finale of Season 8, ended, even though these people came out here and they're paying like $10-12 to actually go and see this, and they're buying all this popcorn and these drinks, once Season 8, Episode 16 was over, and Season 9 began. Yeah, Season 9. Season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead ended. Started. Episode 1, half the people in the theater got up and left. That's the equivalent of if you paid to go and see a movie and you go there and halfway through the film, you got up and left. Now, you can say that maybe it's because of the lackluster finale to Season 8. I don't think it had anything to do with that, actually. And we're going to go over why right now. So, Season 1 of Fear the Walking Dead had a lot of hype around it. And we were promised a lot of things. And they did not deliver on these things. We were told that it was going to be all about the onset of the apocalypse, those first few days, those first couple months, those first moments of the onset that we didn't get to see because Rick was in a coma. Now, the reason why nobody chose this is because it's difficult to write and because it's kind of unrealistic as well, that everyone would suddenly just turn on each other like a pack of wolves, because they wouldn't. Most people would not. I don't know who's thinking that, like, if an apocalypse happened, that almost everyone would just start turning on each other and doing what they want and taking what they want, and society would immediately fall apart. And no, absolutely not. It wouldn't happen. It's unrealistic for that to happen. And it's a bitter pill that we just swallow so that we can enjoy the story for what it is and ignore that the premise isn't realistic, because it doesn't really have to be. For example, they're still driving cars years into the apocalypse, despite the fact that gas wouldn't be good anymore. That's another thing that we just buy into for the sake of the story, because it has to be for it to actually be a story and for it to actually happen. And the way that they get away with this is by skipping the initial onset. But Fear said, no, fuck that. That's a story we want to tell, And then they promised that they'd tell it to us, and then they didn't, and they copped out. Now, the first episode of Fear the Walking Dead is the worst premiere pilot episode of a series, of a decent series that I've ever seen. Right off the start, it presents this big mystery to us regarding this character of Nick. What did he see? Is it just the drugs? Is he crazy? Is this real? What is going on? Oh my God, But here's the thing. we already know the answer, don't we? You know? Like, we know the answer. Zombambos are the answer. Even if The Walking Dead never existed, we would still know the answer to this is Zombambos, because it's the entire premise of the show. So right off the bat, there's no tension in the first episode because we already know the answer to the big question that they are presenting us, you know? On top of this, it really, really relies on you caring about Nick. And I'm sorry, but I don't give a hot shit about Nick. I just don't. Because they don't show me any reasons to actually care about him. They just tell me that I should care about him. You know? And then at the end of the first episode, you know, after sitting through the most tensionless, boring, and dull pilot I've ever seen, we get this moment with a Zombambo, with a zombie, you know, and Travis and Madison's response to this person that they know is dead, getting up and coming after them, and then running it over and over, you know, and it keeps getting up, it keeps coming back, and then they finally end it, you know, and it's this life-changing thing, and you just saw a dead person come back to life and try to kill you. You know, think about that. Think about it. If you killed somebody and they got back up and tried to eat you, what your response would be. How freaked out you'd be. You know, how surprised you'd be. The disbelief. You know, the denial. Everything that would be running through you at that moment, along with all of the adrenaline from what just happened and what you just did. Except none of that happens. You know, Madison and Travis just kind of stand there slack-jawed like, as if they forgot that the camera was still rolling. Like, there's no response. And then they proceed to go about the rest of their days, you know, like the next episode and stuff, as if they didn't just see a dead person come back to life and try to eat them. I feel like the only reason why that was in was maybe because of focus testing. Maybe because it was like, oh, there's no Zombambos in this episode. What the fuck? What the hell, AMC? Where are my zombies? This is supposed to be a Zombambo show, right? Where are the zombies? You know, where are my walkers? Where are my biters? Where are my lurkers? My roamers? Where are they? You know, so they decided to throw one in. And I would have respected it more if they didn't. Honestly, the entire first episode just shouldn't have existed, to be perfectly fair. You know, it should have just started with episode 2. And even then, it's not that great. But at least episode 2, introduces a character that they show us a reason to care about and that is actually interesting and has more going on than, you know, nothing in Daniel, who is the savior of season 1, and we'll get to him in a little bit, but season 1, episode 2, you know, they're like trying to get to Chris, to Travis's son. Okay, cool. Okay, you're giving me some plot. You're giving me a reason to care. Solid. Where's this gonna go? Oh, Chris is an obnoxious little shit. Okay. Why do I care? Like, why? Why do I care about this obnoxious little shit? He's so fucking annoying. He's so poorly written and not even acted well. And he's always got that same fucking shit-eating, like, fuck you expression on his face 100% of the time. Why do I care? Why? Give me a reason to care. That's all I'm asking for. Give me a reason, anything to care. Like, that's all they have to do. And they don't. And then the entire second episode, even though it does introduce Daniel, and that's great, they completely undermine the entire premise of the show in this episode. Like, the first episode is like, okay, it's going a little slow, extremely slow to get to what we were promised, but we'll get there. And then season 1, episode 2, completely skips over the interesting bits that we were promised. The onset of the apocalypse, what goes down when the dead first start walking, when everyone finds out. That's what we were promised. We were promised, we're going to hear like the radios and the calls for people to come together, and we're going to see like the quarantine zones being set up, and we're going to see people's first reactions to the dead, except the only reaction that we really get is at the end of episode 1. So then and the other thing is, like, they introduced this one character, I'm forgetting his name, but he was actually kind of interesting, the sort of fat, pimply-faced kid with black hair. He was kind of intriguing, and he has his moments, but then he just disappears and we never see him again. So, to recap there's 2 good, interesting characters in the entirety of season 1, and one of them disappears and never shows up again. And he was the only one they gave us a reason to care about. It wasn't a very good reason, but it was a reason, as opposed to the other characters who, it's not that they give us a bad reason to care about them, they just straight up don't give us a reason to care about them. So even though this kid doesn't have a great reason to care about him, you still kind of care about him. And he does help Madison, and he really did remind me of Glenn, right? Because, so when we're first introduced to Glenn, they have this wonderful moment where he comes on the speaker, and he's like, hey, you dumbass in the tank. You cozy in there, or like whatever the line is. And it's kind of humorous, and it leaves this big mystery of who is this guy, what's he up to, what's his game, is he gonna try and help Rick? It seems like it, and we care about Rick. So right off the bat, they gave us a mystery about who is this guy. They left on a pretty good cliffhanger there. They have him helping Rick, and he's funny. So right off the bat, they've given us 4 very good reasons to care about Glenn before we've even seen his face. We've heard 1 line of dialogue from him, and within that just 1 line of dialogue, I cared more about Glenn than I did anyone in season 1 of Fear the Walking Dead. Like, if Glenn only had that 1 line, I'd care about him more than any of these characters. Because they give us reasons, multiple reasons to care about him. So, then you have them go into Daniel's barber shop and cue, the introduction of him. And while the introduction's good and all, here's the problem, right? They promised us to see the onset, and they're skimping out on it. Instead of showing the onset and what's going down and what happens, they are instead hiding inside of Daniel's barbershop, you know, because seeing everyone turn on each other like a pack of wolves that fast and seeing society completely fall apart in like an hour is kind of completely ridiculous. And it's why I think that that should have been the entire premise of the first season. Like, have you ever seen the movie Cloverfield? In Cloverfield, like, there's some, like, heavy shit going down. There's fucking monsters destroying bridges. Your loved ones are dying around you. You've got, like, some kind of, alien impregnation thing in one of the characters' chests, like a chest popper. Like, it's super fucked up and it's super creepy. But one of the main characters, like, you know what, no, I gotta go save this person. I love her. I love him. We gotta go get him. I'm not gonna ask any of you guys to come with me, but I've gotta go. And he's leaving like the quarantine zone. He's leaving the area of safety or whatever. They're heading in the opposite direction of safety to try and get to this person that they care about. How much more powerful would it be if season 1 of Fear the Walking Dead was all about, that sort of thing? But it's not. So they hide in Daniel's bar. They hide in Daniel's barbershop, and everything's going on outside, and we completely miss everything that's happening that we've been promised that we'll see. And then by the time we next get into things, the hospitals are already like all down. The city has already fallen. Everyone's already like turned to villainy and scum. And like martial law is already in effect and the quarantine zones are already all set up. And this all happens off screen. And these are all the things that we were promised we would see. This was the premise. They completely lied to us. They completely skipped over the premise of the show. And while they are now showing us the martial law aspect very briefly for the rest of the season, we're not really seeing enough of it. We don't really know or care about these characters, both the army men and our like protagonists. Like I straight up can't remember like their names, like these side characters, And I watched it. I remember side characters from The Walking Dead, but I don't remember them from this. So to recap, the problem with season 1, is there's only one good character, and that's Daniel. They don't really give much of an actual arc to any of the characters. The first episode was awful and had no tension because the entire thing was on a crux of caring about Nick and about, the mystery of what he saw real? Was it the drugs? Was he crazy? Etc. But we already know the answer to the giant question that the first episode is asking, because it's the entire premise of the show, which means that there's no tension. They also try to give us some more tension with like Alicia and her boyfriend, but they don't actually show us a reason to care about them, and they're not really that endearing at all. So only one endearing character who isn't even there in the first episode. Lack of animated responses to gigantic revelations, and things that we already know being treated as gigantic revelations when they're not. because the revelations kind of revolve around you not knowing the premise of the show, which we do. So there you have it. That's the problem with season one and why people don't really like it that much. I will be signing out for this one. I'll see you next time on the problem with season two of Fear the Walking Dead. Peace.